आज की मदद का आवाज़ करते हैं और दरख्वास्त कर रहा हूँ ब्रदर अली से कि वो और कुरान खानी से मोहम्मद
सल्ली अला मुहम्मद आले मुहम्मद।
मरने से आपके मैं यही
नीज़ा उठाती हूँ, दरबार में यजीद के सर जाती हूँ। हाय हाय मेरे मुसाफिर करबो भला हुसैन, हाय हाय मेरे गरीब मेरे मालका हुसैन, हाय हाय तुझे न पानी का कतरा मिला हुसैन, हाय हाय तमाम तर तेरा टुकड़े हुआ हुसैन, हाय हाय तमाम तन तेरा टुकड़े हुआ हुसैन, प्यासे गले पे खंजरे बेदाग चल गया, हाय हाय तड़प तड़प के तेरा दम निकल गया, लेना नवा अली की बिज़ात तुझे मेरी करबला खुदा की अमानत तुझे मेरी, खाक मेरी माँ की रियाज़त तुझे मेरी, ले ज़मीन शम्मे इमामत तुझे मेरी, ले ज़मीन शम्मे इमामत तुझे मेरी, दामन तेरा भरा मेरी कहती उजड़ गई, सरहद में तेरी भाई से ज़ैनब बिछड़ गई, ये कह के सर को पीट के रोई वो दिल जली, आकर न जब से हाल मेरा देखो या अली, गर्दन रसन में आपकी बेटी की है बंदी, कहते ये मारिया से वो बादशाह में तब चली, कहते ये मारिया से वो बादशाह में तर चली, हाय हाय मैं करबलाए मौला में लौट गई, परदेस में मैं आके बरादर से छुट गई, मेहमान बोला के हमसे दगा की लाइनों ने, क्या क्या न हम पे जोरो जफा की लाइनों ने, कुछ भी जरा न शर्मो हया की लाइनों ने, गर्दन जफा से शहकी जुदा की लाइनों ने, गर्दन जफा से शहकी जुदा की लाइनों ने, खेमे जला के अहले सितम शाद हो गए, हम करबला में आन के बर्बाद हो गए, खेमे जला के अहले सितम शाद हो गए, हम करबला में आन के बर्बाद हो गए, जब लौट के करबला से
Can we have the presentation?
Yeah.
Presentation.
Yeah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين سيدنا ونبينا وشفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب قلوبنا بالقاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين من يومنا هذا إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وخطابه المتين: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. صلى الله.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Thank you for coming to this presentation on Islamic inheritance laws and will writing. There are a couple of objectives that we want to meet by introducing this presentation. It is going to take about an hour to 90 minutes. If you're not comfortable sitting on the first, you're most welcome to sit on the chairs so you don't get tired, inshallah. It is important for us as Muslims to understand the dynamics of Islamic inheritance laws. Because we live in a part of the world which has their own inheritance laws. If you were living in Pakistan or in any other Muslim country, it wouldn't really make a lot of difference even if you did not understand Islamic inheritance laws. But living in this part of the world, it becomes very close to, in certain cases, almost wajib for you to understand the inheritance laws and write a will. How many of you have a will? 1, 2, 3, only 3 people. There was brother outside was saying that we are young and we don't need to write a will. Again, that is also a mistaken concept because we don't know when we are going to die. And most of the time, it is the youth or people die in youth, in young, the number of people dying in young age is more than the number of people dying in old age. Most people die in their prime age. That's why you have more older people than the younger people. And so it is important for us to understand these laws, and even if we are young, we need to know the inheritance laws and have a will. We'll go into that, why is it important, and what happens if you do not write a will. It's almost, I'm claiming, and inshallah we'll see in after a few tens of minutes, that it is almost wajib for us to write our will. Okay. The future is unpredictable, right? Nobody knows what is going to happen in our future. Because the future is unpredictable, we want to protect ourselves against probable dangers, right? Why do you buy? That is why you buy car insurance. When you buy a car, there is no guarantee, there is no certainty that you're going to have a car accident. But yet you buy car insurance. You buy a house, you buy fire insurance. There is no guarantee that your house is going to catch fire, but you have fire insurance. Sometimes because of law, but even if it is not because of law, you want to be safe. You get life insurance, you're worried about your family, you're worried about your education. So you want to protect yourself against the probable dangers that will occur, that can occur in the future, right? But there are certain things that are, there is one thing at least that is certain about our future. That is, what is it that I can be certain about my future? Can I be certain that I will turn 60? Can I be certain that I will see my grandchildren? For those who are unmarried, is it certain that you will get married? Is it certain that you will graduate? No, nothing is certain. But there's one thing that is certain. Death. We're all going to die. So death is one certain danger that we are going to face. How have we insured ourselves against death? When we insure ourselves, and it's only logical to insure ourselves against the probable dangers, then imagine how important it would be to insure ourselves against certain dangers that are certain, that are expected to happen in our life. And if you recall, in one of the lectures we mentioned, Amirul Mu'minin as-Salam was asked, that what is near and what is nearer. क्या चीज़ करीब है और क्या करीब तर है? What did he reply? Qiyamah is near, but death is nearer. And then the other question he was asked, what is difficult and what is even more difficult? क्या मुश्किल है और क्या मुश्किल तर है? And what did he reply? Grave is difficult. कब्र की मंजिल सख्त है. And even more difficult than that station of grave is entering the grave without any preparation. So we are going to face that. We know this is one certain thing and we need to prepare for it. And we need to take with us things that are going to help us in that journey. The Holy Prophet has said, it's not.
It's a
Please, if you could put it to the slide mode. It's not. The Holy Prophet has said, يَتْبَعُ الْمَيَّتْ ثَلَاثًا. Three things follow a mayyat to the grave. Okay? Can you go one side? Back? Can you do it manually? There's text on this slide. On the previous slide. There's text on this, it should show up. So the Prophet said that Yatra'ul Mayyat Salas. Three things follow the Mayyat, follow the dead body to the grave. Okay? Two of them return, whereas one stays with him. Okay? What are the things that follow? Mal, Ahl, and Amal. His actions follow the Mayyat, his relatives follow the Mayyat, and his wealth follows the Mayyat till the grave. And when he's put in the grave, the actions stay with him, whereas the wealth and family returns. That is the very last moment, it is the very last point till they are going to be with you and not any further. So it is our actions that are going to go with us in the grave. So we need to be careful and we need to value the currency that we are going to take with us in the grave. And that is our actions. Please recite salawat. Even if it's not working, we can go to the next slide. So I've already described what was on that slide. Okay. So the objectives of this presentation, now because relatives are going to come back from the grave, and the wealth is going to come back from the grave, there is going to be this discussion about what the relatives are going to do with the wealth. And that is where inheritance laws come in, that is where your will come in. Okay? The objective of this seminar is to understand why you need to write a will. Okay? Some people think that they need to write a will so that their children should not dispute over the property that is being left, or if they do not write a will, there are going to be disputes that are going to continue for as long as they live. That is not the reason why one should write a will. Okay? And you cannot control that by writing a will. For example, if you write a will, if you have 4 houses and you write a will that this house is going to be given to this son A, and second house goes to son B, and third house goes to son C, and the fourth house goes to my spouse, this will is not valid from an Islamic point of view. So there is no point in making such a will. And even if you make that will, it is not applicable. So you need to know what you can do in a will and what is not allowed. For if you make a will that has no meaning, that is not applicable in an Islamic setting, then you have lost the purpose of writing that will. And if you write a will that goes against the principles of Islam and the property is divided according to that, then you have deprived certain individuals of their due share. And that is also haram. You cannot do that. You have your wealth as long as you're alive. When you die, your connection with your wealth breaks apart. It is no longer your wealth. So you cannot decide in a will what needs to be done with your wealth after you die. Important point to realize. You cannot decide what needs to be done with your entire property, after death. Religion has not allowed you to do that. So you cannot say half of my property goes to this and half of my property goes to that. That is not a valid way to make. And if you make that, it will not be applicable in its totality. So we need to understand the importance of will writing. We need to understand the dynamics of inheritance laws. Why do we need to understand the dynamics of inheritance laws? Because whether you make a will or you do not make a will, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already has defined the inheritance laws. He has already defined how the property is going to be divided. You cannot change that. Some people these days write a will, I want my daughter to have the same share as my son. Again, this will is not valid because it is against the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you might have a situation where you have two sons that have gone to college, that have gone through university and are working, and you spend a lot of money on them. And you have a daughter who is in high school, and you know that she has a lot of expenses ahead, and you want to leave a bigger chunk of your property to her, for her, right? If you do not write a will, and you let the property get divided by its normal standard Islamic laws, how much is she going to get? Half of what the male gets, right? But that might be too little for her because there are lots of expenses that she's going to incur in college, and you want to somehow compensate for that. You can do that through your will. So if you have a will, if you write a will, then you can alter her share of inheritance in such a way, you can alter her share of the property that she's going to get in such a way that she might end up getting more than what the son is getting, or even equal to what the son is getting. So there is a way of making that happen, but not by willing the followers that I want my daughter to get the same as my son. So that makes us understand why it is important to understand. So we all need to know, if I die today, how is my property going to be divided? Who gets what? And then you might realize that this is too little for this loved one of mine. And then you can then use the flexibility given to you in your will to maneuver and customize your will in such a way that you are satisfied that their financial security of your loved ones will be secured, will be safeguarded. Okay. So once you understand the importance of will writing and you understand the dynamics of inheritance, it will help us understand how you can use your will to secure the financial security of your loved ones. Any questions so far? If there are questions even on the ladies' side, please do interrupt right there and then if it is related to the slide. Otherwise, we will have a break after 30 or 40 minutes, and then there will be I'll take certain questions at that time. If you can pass a microphone on the ladies' side so that if you have questions, they can interrupt. Yes. You cannot make a will to divide half of. Yes. Yes, so I will show you actually how it can be done, where you can having more wealth given to your daughter and not break any Islamic law. So that is important. Yes.
Just to clarify, I know you don't mean it. Normally when we talk about will, it's addressed mostly, it appears it addressed mostly to the men. Women are also required to make the will, aren't they?
Yes, okay. Will. Who should write a will? If writing a will is not wajib to begin with, first of all, number one, writing a will is not wajib to begin with. Because if you do not write a will, your wealth will automatically be divided by the laws of inheritance defined by Islam. However, you might not be comfortable with the outcome of that division. And in certain cases, you might want to write a will to change that to a certain extent. You will have limits to there will be limits to which you can change that. So you cannot just give all of your property to one individual and deprive someone else of something. No, of his share. No, you cannot do that. Number two, inheritance laws apply to whoever has property. Whoever owns land, wealth, property, whatever. If you are an owner, if you own something, inheritance laws will apply. So whether you're a male, a female, a child, a grown-up, an adult, as long as you own property, inheritance laws will apply. It becomes wajib to write a will for both men and women if, as a result of not writing a will, someone is going to be deprived of his Islamic share. So if you do not write a will, and as a result, someone is going to get deprived. For example, if in this system, there are a lot of examples saying, according to the law of Alberta, the daughter and the son gets equal share. So if you do not write a will, and as a result, the daughter gets the same as the boy has been deprived of a part of his share. From Islamic, it was his wealth. Islam does not look at the state laws. Islam will say, well, this is yours and this is yours. And now this daughter is going to consume wealth, money, use money that was not hers. So she is doing haram. That money is not hers, she's using it. The boy injustice has been done to the boy. So in this case, not writing a will result in the state laws kicking in. So you need to have a will where you can make sure that you bypass those state laws. Because
it was held in the Western countries, automatically it will be wrong for individuals.
if you do not have a will.
But if you have the will, so how the civic law will match the Islamic will? I don't know how.
So if you have Islamic will, then state will follow it, and they will have no question about how you have divided. Except if you do not leave any will, then state will follow their own principle.
So it's automatically like this.
Yeah, your will be honored by state.
So if you write a will, your will take precedence over the state law. So therefore it becomes important to write a will now. And then you'll see the consequences of not writing a will can be severe. In certain cases, your children might not get anything. If there is a surviving spouse, the surviving spouse will get everything. Nothing goes to children. Right? So there are certain cases where that will happen as well. Okay, so these are the objectives hopefully which we will try to meet by the end of the session. So let us discuss an inheritance problem and see how wealth would be divided if there was no inheritance, if there was no will that was done. So we have a dead body, we have inheritors, and then you have wealth, or maybe the motive for murder. Right? And let us assume that the survivors that are there includes a grandmother, father, mother, a working son and a daughter in college, and this person died recently married. Again, had a second wife earlier. His wife had died and then he recently married again. So the survivors, there are 6 survivors: wife, father, mother, son, daughter, and grandmother. So that a quick a test quiz of how do you think the wealth would be divided, and let us assume the assets are $1 million, with 500 in cash, in land value, and 100,000 in cash, and then there's a residence that has been left, has been bequeathed, and its value is 400,000, 200,000 in land value, and 200,000 in the structure value. This is how your assets are divided. So 500,000 in agricultural land, for example, or investment property, 100,000 in cash and gold and liquid cash, and 400 in residential property, which is 50-50, meaning 50 in land value and 50 in structure value. And these are the survivors. Anybody wants to give a try?
From the
How much would the wife get, first of all?
from the land value, from the structure value, she will not get anything. From the land value, 1/8.
Okay, very good. He also gives a good breakdown. She gets 1/8 of the value. Okay, and then how much would the father, would they get anything?
None.
Grandmother?
Nothing.
Nothing. Father?
Nothing.
Mother?
Nothing.
Son and daughter? The rest would be divided among the sons and daughters.
Yeah, 2/3 son and daughter.
Of the remaining 2, son would get twice the share of daughter. It is important to understand, realize important thing. You might come across this when you're dealing with non-Muslims. The Holy Verse in the Quran, when it talks about the share of the male being twice the share of the female, it is limited to sons and daughters. It says, "Fi awladikum lidhakari mislu hazzil unsayayn." From among your children, the male gets twice the share of the female. ये नहीं कहा कि हमेशा मर्द को ज़्यादा मिलेगा. There might be situations in which a female survivor is getting twice as much as a male survivor. And we will show that it can happen. It is only among your daughters and sons that this double takes place, or in certain cases, in other cases. But this verse which says the male gets twice the amount of a female is limited to your daughter. في أولادكم, it says في أولادكم للذكر مثل حظ الأنثيين. There are other cases as well where this might apply, but generally to keep in mind. So there could be a case where the wife is getting the most share and the sons are getting least. For example, yes.
The question came from the lady's side that what if the head of the family says that he has a life insurance, so the family should not worry about the financial difficulty?
I did not understand the question.
So if the head of the family says that they already have life insurance, so everything is covered, so they don't need to write the will. There's no.
If they do not write the will, Islamic, when the property that he is leaving, the deceased is going to leave a property. He's going to leave a house, land, investment property, and stocks, and so on and so forth. How is that going to be divided? Islam has its own rules of how it should be divided. Okay, so maybe he leaves 1 million in assets. He has a life insurance that will be equally divided among all. Fine, that is separate themselves. But this land, or this 1 million in assets, needs to be divided in such a way that the brother gets twice as much as the sister. But if he does not make a will, what is going to happen? The insurance is going to divide the insurance policy, that wealth, according to how it was decided. But this house is going to be divided equally now, because state law is going to kick in. And therefore the son is going to be deprived of his due share. Yes, you will ensure their financial security, but still there has been injustice done to a member of the family.
Also, life insurance is only given if it is an accidental death. But in case of natural death, I think
Yeah, so insurance insurance might secure the financial security. Inheritance might not necessarily ensure financial security. If the person died leaving only $1,000, it's not going to ensure financial security of anybody. But still, that needs to be divided according to Islamic law. But if you do not do that, somebody will be deprived of his share, and that is haram. And if you don't write a will, you are the reason why this haram is being done. Unless your inheritors decide, when the state law kicks in, that the division is done according to state law, and then the daughter says, well, this is not my share, I return back to the son. So if they within themselves decide to do that, it is okay. But if one of the inheritors doesn't accept that, you don't know how and when people will change. If it's a matter of $50, they might be willing to, right? But if it's a matter of $1 million, they might not be willing to give up, right? Okay. The division that we just did is not correct. Okay? I will show very quickly why. So, let us look at the first scenario where we were talking about the expected share, and these are the survivors, and based on no will scenario, this is how it will be divided. Okay? Father, the son will get twice. Father and mother do have a share in inheritance, first of all. Wife gets 1/8, yes, that is right. Everything else, the son and daughter is also right. They get twice as much as the daughter. But the father and mother, they also get 1/6. So this is something most people don't know. कि जब मरने वाले के माँ बाप का भी हिस्सा है, if they are alive. ठीक है, पाकिस्तान में मैंने आज तक नहीं देखा कि पाकिस्तान में इसको ख्याल रखा है. Coming back to Liz Zakare is to Hasil Unsayan, a daughter gets twice, the son gets twice the share of the daughter. खासतौर पर पाकिस्तान में लोग रहते हैं, पाकिस्तान में मामूलन बहनों को नहीं दिया जाता, ठीक है, कि उनका है ही नहीं हिस्सा. याद रखिए, इस्लाम अल्लाह ताला ने कानून ये बनाया है कि मर्द के लिए twice as much as a female gets. The base unit is what she is getting. You multiply that by 2, and that is what the brother should take. So if she is getting 0, how much should the male get? 2 zeros. Right? Islam की हिकमत देखिए, इस्लाम ने बेस यूनिट औरत के हिस्से को बनाया. Liz zakar for a male is twice the share of a female. So before taking everything for yourself and giving her nothing, you should realize that I can only get twice as much as what she gets. So if you're giving her 0, you're entitled to 0. Okay.
So if he had 2 sons, and what would happen? If he had 2 sons?
Well, we can, it will change a little bit, the amount will change, but these will remain the same, this will remain the same, and this will reduce that because it is going to be divided among the 3 in such a way that son is going to get twice.
Multiply 2.
Okay. So let us not bring more complications right now, but at the end, if there are questions, if there are specific cases, we can deal that individually, or maybe tomorrow we can have a combination of this if there is interest. So let us look at the expected worth based on the value of the assets. We have 1 million assets, right? So wife is going to get 125. According to Ayatollah Khamenei, if you're a follower of Ayatollah Khamenei, the wife gets 125,000. Daughter gets 180. Son gets 361. Mother gets 166 and father gets 166. Okay? And this daughter is the one who needs the money most because she's going to go to college. Right? The son is already working, so he's not really in need of this chunk of money. So you can see here that you might want to use your will to increase the daughter's share. If you're a follower, if the wife is a follower of Ayatollah Sistani, she gets only this much, 37,500. Out of 1 million that you leave, based on the asset division that we discussed in the previous slide.
This 13 by 72, is it the constant formula or?
In case of this survivor, okay, this is it's not going to be working.
Yeah.
Okay, in case of
Okay, backward, forward.
yeah, I think it's responding slowly. Okay, so it's working now.
No,
So-
yeah.
So in case of, with this division that we have of survivors, it is constant for this division. If it changes, it will change.
One son and one daughter. For
One son, one daughter, one wife, father, mother. Yes, in that. If it changes, it will change. So with this asset division, 1 million, you're leaving 1 million with this division of assets, the wife is going to get 37 if you follow Ayat al-Sistani. Yeah, if she's follow Ayat al-Sistani, that is what she deserves. Because she will deserve, she will find her share based on who she follows.
वीडियो में स्लाइड भी है.
So that could be a motivation for switching your. But that is not a genuine reason for switching. You should recall that is not genuine. And we'll get into why this difference. We'll get into that as to why this difference is there.
Nothing to do with the taqreed of died person.
No. Okay, so now you see the importance. You might also want to increase the share of the wife because this is too little for her. Right? Okay, so this is happy, this one is happy, son is happy, but no one else is happy. Right? And when such things happen, what do you get? You get some very angry people. Right? So we don't want this to happen. So we want people to be happy and nice to each other. So it is important that you then therefore have a will where you can balance the imbalance that you're seeing. Okay. There is wisdom behind why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allocated shares in this manner. We're not going to go in that detail today because this division of shares is based on the grand vision of Islam as to how the society should function and what it expects of the spouse after the husband has died, or what it expects of the husband after the spouse has died, and so on and so forth. So there is wisdom behind the division of inheritance laws, and then there is freedom for you to work with that and to a certain extent, and in order to secure the financial insecurities that you could have. So,
is the vice versa the same thing? If a husband dies and wife dies and husband has a wife dies and she has this much property.
Yes, it will change. The formula will change. The formula will change, but yes, it will be a similar division. It will be a similar division. The share of the husband will be more than the 1/8. It's not 1/8 with the husband. It's 1/4. Yeah, so he will have a little more share, but it's only 1/4. So you have 450,000. So this was scenario 1. And this was the result. Okay, so let us see that if you had, or if this dead person had a will, to write a will, he could have affected the shares to be at the last column, the shares that you see the last column. So based on Islamic division, the grandmother who is alive doesn't get anything. So if you have a grandmother and you're helping and supporting the grandmother, and you're not sure if your children are going to continue supporting the grandmother, if you do not have a will, she gets nothing. She's left without any wealth. Where the father, mother, son, daughter, wife, they get whatever they get. But then you might want to change this, and this is what I'm suggesting. Like, let us write a will in such a way that you leave 200 to your wife, 330 to your daughter. So you increase her share from 180 to 330. And obviously that's going to come out from the son's share. So you reduce the son's share from 361 to 200. We'll look at now the daughter is getting more than the son. So it's possible to do that. Okay? And the share of the mother will also reduce, share of the father will reduce, and part of it is going to grandma. Okay? So it is possible to write a will to have the property divided in this manner.
So the third column is actually as per Islamic rules, right?
Yes, this is the Islamic formula. This is the Islamic wealth. The second column, the 1, 2, 3, 4, if there are 4 columns. The third column is the Islamic division.
Islamic division without any
without any will.
But if you can amend that division by writing a will in the fourth column.
Yes.
And that is permissible division.
Yes. Yes. So this is permissible. The will. Not all wills will be permissible. So you need to know that is why I'm saying you need to know the rules, inheritance rules. You need to first of all know how the land, the property will be divided if you don't write a will. First of all. So it's important to know the rules of Islamic inheritance. Number one. That apply to your case. Number two, you need to know how you can use your will to change that.
But this third column is not applicable in the rest.
Why not?
Because if you don't have a will, they will divide assets as per government's rules.
Yes. And your daughter will get 0. Yes, please. Yes. I will show you.
Just to understand it clearly, you can only increase the fourth column. Third column is fixed. You cannot decrease from, because the fourth column is where you're actually writing a will, but you still have to, there's a base, which is the third column, which is the Islamic portion. So you can increase that part, but you cannot decrease it because that...
You are decreasing. Look at the son of the shares of the son.
You are reducing it.
You are decreasing his share. But now you're not decreasing his share, you have written your will in such a way that his share is 200 now. So you're not depriving him of anything. You have allocated that as his valid Shar'i share. So if there was no will, then this was his share. But by writing a will, you have allocated his due share to be 200. Any questions from the ladies' side?
Ladies has a wireless mic there, so if they
there is a wireless mic on the ladies' side if they have. Because as we move forward, then it will be difficult to come back on this.
Is it still there?
Who's?
माइक मैंने बिल्कुल आगे रखा हुआ है लेडीज में, पार्टीशन के बिल्कुल पास, तो कोई ले ले उसको प्लीज.
There was this one person in Islamic division who got 0 if there was no will.
Yes.
But as a result of my writing here, I can change the share from 0 to something.
Yes.
Similarly, I can reduce a share from bigger number to smaller number.
Yes.
Can I make that share equal to 0?
No.
If I can reduce it, I cannot reduce it.
You can increase from 0 to a certain amount. You cannot increase from 0 to 1 million because there is a limit that there is a certain flexibility that you have. You can only work with that flexibility. We will get to that. We will get to that. What is the maximum you can do? Right? There is no such thing as arc. You cannot deprive your sons or any inheritor from the inheritance. You cannot say this inheritor is not going to get. You can do whatever with your will, but for example, you cannot say that my son is not going to get anything. That is invalid.
There is no concept of arc.
In inheritance, yes, there is no concept. There is a certain arc that automatically occurs. We will get into that as well if there is time. How much time do we have? Till 9:30.
We have one more.
Start at 8. So if it's 2 hours, we do 10. Anyway, we'll stop whenever you're tired. Okay. Yeah.
Everyone's happy.
Son is not obviously happy.
But he's working, you see, he's already working and making lots of money. And you can always tell, and he will always realize that my father spent a lot of money on my education. So, and marriage and so on. This girl is going to college, she have to get married, and there's so many expenses. So it really doesn't matter to him because he's already working. If you're not. But you're right, in certain cases, some people might not be happy. You're not always pleased.
There's nothing about brothers and sisters.
A question on the lady side? Yes, please.
Islam. I have a question, but it's not pertaining to this scenario.
Okay.
I just wanted to know the family with 5 siblings, and of those 5 siblings, 2 of them have departed. So just when the will is being prepared, just wanted to know if the children of the departed siblings do get anything for their either for the mother or for the father?
Okay, very good question. We will get to that in due time. If you are not writing a will, then they do not get anything. But if you are writing a will, then you can give them a portion of the inheritance. You can allocate a portion to them if you have written a will. You can do that in the will only, not otherwise.
Thank you.
Can you move forward? Yes, you have a question, sorry. There is a even if they're brothers and sisters, they don't get anything. In this scenario that I mentioned here, there are grandparents and grandchildren and brothers and sisters and cousins and uncles and aunts. Nobody gets anything. Only this is what happens. Islamically. Okay? So, now hopefully you must be realizing the importance of will writing now, that we need to write a will if you want to change. And the Holy Quran says about will writing, Kutiba alaykum idha hazara ahadakum al-maut in taraka khayran al-wasiyah. It has been prescribed for you when that approaches any one of you and he leaves behind any property, that he makes a will. للوالدين والأقربين بالمعروف حقا على المتقين. He makes a will for his parents and relatives in an honorable manner, in a manner that is accepted in the society, that is considered to be good, and is an obligation on the God-fearing. This is the verse of the Holy Quran that is encouraging us to write a will. For example, in other scenarios where writing a will would become wajib. For example, you have not paid khums on your property. If you die, your kids are not going to know that you did not pay khums. They're going to divide property among themselves. You will be in trouble with it. If there is a wajib hajj on you and you have not gone for hajj so far, if there is kafara of fasting, you have left a few fasts and you need to pay kafara. If you die without writing it down, without instructing your family members, if you have a loan to pay, if you borrowed money from somebody, and only you know, your inheritors don't know, and the person you borrowed from did not put it in writing. So if you die, he has no way to claim that this person borrowed money from me. The inheritors are going to ask for evidence. And he doesn't have any evidence, so he's going to be deprived of his share. And these people are going to be consuming his share. Right? So it is, he should have something in writing. That is why it is important that you always write something whenever you do a trade or whenever you loan money. It is important, or you have two people as witnesses, so that there is, whenever there is a transaction, you need to have it documented, or witnesses. Okay. We already talked about whether will writing is wajib or mustahab. Our Aimmas also did make wasiyah at the time of their death, at the time of the shahadat of Amir al-Mu'minin. He made a list of 20 wasiyah to his children. Most of those wasiyah were mustahab wasiyah. You don't do zulm on others. You have to help the oppressed. Don't be a helper of the oppressors. These are mustahab wasiyah that we can all do to our children. Do not pray in the mosque. Do not hurt your siblings. Go to the mosque. Give money in charity. These kind of wasiyah are mustahab wasiyah. But then if there is a wajib on you that will get lost, that will not be performed if you do not have a will, then in certain cases it might become wajib. Okay, limitations. Okay, you cannot do whatever you want with your will. There are obviously limitations, as some of the brothers have pointed out. Number one, you cannot deprive somebody of his or her inheritance. So you cannot reduce their share to zero. You cannot modify the inheritance rules. You cannot say, I want my daughter to get the same, to get equal to what my son does. You cannot say, I want my wife to get 1/4 instead of 1/8. You cannot mute, you cannot modify the inheritance laws. They will get applied itself. You cannot make a will against the Sharia. Okay? For example, if spending something on something was haram, you cannot make a will for that thing to happen. An example would be a will that is against the Sharia. There are a couple of examples that you can think. For example, if helping the enemy of Islam, for example, by selling weapons to them. The enemies of Islam do not sell weapons to a nation that is actively in war with Islam, with the Muslim country. So you cannot use your will there. So any will of yours that is against the law of Sharia is not going to be applicable. A cat? You want to donate, you want to leave money for your cat, right? It's against the Sharia. Yes. There can be other ways of doing that, but you cannot make the cat the owner of that money, as in this society. The cat becomes the owner of your property, and then you have to have a person who would spend that money based on the well-being of this cat, right? So it is the money of the cat and somebody is managing it. In Islam, you cannot make an animal own property. So if you make a will that I want my cat to own 1/3 of my property, that is not going to happen. One good example of a will against Sharia.
How about designating a trust for doing welfare works or?
Yes, you can do that. You can do that. But in designating a well to run an alcohol store, no, you cannot do that. To give money in charity, to make a masjid, to look after the orphans, yes, but there will be limitations. You cannot make a will that applies to all of your property. So you cannot say, I want all of my wealth to be donated to a charity center, to the Hussaini and to a mosque. I cannot make a will that I want half of my property to be used for orphans. Okay, there is a limitation there. Okay, that to what extent, what is the amount of your property that you can work with when it comes to writing a will? We'll get to that. There's a website, shiawills.org. They have the rules of inheritance are also, of will writing and inheritance are also there. For if you want more details, you can also go and check this website. Okay. So this is how it works. Let's go back. When I said you cannot make a will that applies to all of your property, what I'm trying to say is, whenever you're writing a will, your will is going to be applicable to only 1/3 of your property. Okay? So as soon as you die, this property is not yours. So if you have 2 sons and you die, this property automatically gets transferred to your sons. You're no longer the owner of this property. Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you the freedom that you can decide what needs to be done with 1/3 of your property after your death. You want to give money in charity? Give 1/3 of it. You want to give money to the mosque? Give 1/3, only 1/3. You cannot touch the remaining 2/3. Understood? So if you want to give more to your daughter, you can give 1/3 of your property. You can write a will that I want to give 1/3 of my property to my daughter. So she takes that 1/3. Now the remaining 2/3 is what is going to be divided according to inheritance laws, and she's going to get again as inheritance. She's getting out of will because you made a will. Now the remainder is going to be divided according to standard Islamic inheritance laws. And as a result, she's going to get more than the brother.
So, in the very first example, in the 4th column, the deceased person has given a will.
Yes, we are assuming that there is a will.
100% of it. This was 100% of his.
No. 1 million. Yeah, he had a will. In the previous example, we'll revisit that example again at the end. So just wait for now. So this is how it basically works. So this is that person, and this is his piece of pie that he left, the blue pie. Now this is how the process of division will take place. The first question: did he leave a will? So if he did not leave a will, the standard inheritance laws will apply. And as a result, this is what is going to happen. So whatever the survivors, it will be divided according to the standard inheritance laws. Now, if there is a will, so if there was a will, you don't go right to the inheritance laws, you come down, and your will be applicable to 1/3 of the assets only. So 1/3 of the of your child property will be set aside for your will. The remaining 2/3 will be subject to your inheritance laws. Is this clear to everybody?
Now it is.
Yeah. So out of $1 million, you have freedom to allocate
$333
as per your own.
as per your own, according to allowed.
Right. You can give it to anybody.
Yeah, you can make it first, you give it to the orphans, you can give it to your daughter, to your wife, to your grandma, to your grandmother, to your brother, sister, whatever. As long as it's a halal use, allowed use.
If somebody enjoys the 1/5 khums, so in this case it will go.
Yes, next slide. We have the next slide. Okay, so you understand how this works now, will and inheritance? So if there is no will, the standard inheritance laws will apply. You can do absolutely nothing. Okay? Even if you have no will, even the property is, your wealth is now the property of the children, and if they don't want, they can only give you the bare minimum burial services. They can say, we want, as a minimum kafan is only this quality. We don't want to give anything more than that. They have the right to say that because it's their property now. If so even part of your funeral expenses, you cannot be taken that from anything extra than the bare minimum is actually coming out from the share of the inheritors. It's their property. They need to agree for you to do that. Sometimes in Pakistani communities we see, I don't know about other communities, but in Pakistani communities, so this is, the husband dies and he leaves a 6-month-old baby and a wife. So the wife is in charge of the entire property, and she's doing Chehlam and Daswa and 20th and 30th and the Chehlam, spending money on that. Now this money, she owns only 1/8 of what is left. The remainder is the property of this tifl, this child who is immature, not mature yet. And without his permission, it cannot be spent. It can be spent on what is needed for this child. The mother does not have the right to spend wherever she thinks is right. It has to be spent in the interest of the child. So you cannot, and some of the scholars are so careful that if a death happens in a house and there are little children, they don't even eat from that house because they think, they are afraid that maybe the amount that is coming from the share of this child. So they exercise caution to that extent. Any questions? Yes.
We need jewelry with the wife, and that will be divided, or that?
If it's your jewelry and you have died, yes, it will be divided. If you have given it, if it's her jewelry, then it's hers. So it depends on what the understanding is. Your property will be divided. The person who dies, his property will be divided. If I have given a wedding ring to my wife as a gift, then it's hers. If it's not a gift, it's something that I bought for myself or for the household. I have 10 diamond necklaces and I have given her to use them. It's not a gift. Then yes, it will be divided.
Similarly, like in Canada especially, when we buy a house, it's between husband and wife, right? So she's owner of the 50% already.
Yes.
So the will be, or according to the Islamic law, the division will be the remaining 50%.
Yes. And of that remaining 50%, you have only 1/3 to play with.
One by three.
Yes.
So it depends who is paying the mortgage and who is contributing more. If wife is just living there,
It depends on your understanding. It depends on your understanding. You might be.
if wife is just living there and not contributing anything to the mortgage and down payment,
But she's not, okay, she's not contributing financially, but she's still contributing as part of your life, right?
she may not contribute financially, does not.
Okay, question. Interesting question. Well, if the wife is living in the house and she's not contributing to the mortgage.
Financially.
First of all, it is the man's, this is a seminar, a different seminar. It is the husband's responsibility to provide a house for the wife.
Right, okay.
And food and the nafaqa, the wajib. Right? So she's not expected to pay for living there. But if she's owning that part, she's owning part of the house, then she needs to pay the mortgage for that part of the house that she owns. That is her. And she can charge you rent using that, because you are using her part of the property. She's entitled to use your part of the property. So now your wife can, or if that is the case, she can ask you for rental payment. Understood? But generally that doesn't happen, but you have to understand that these are all complications and implications of such. No, of not being very clear with what is going on. It's not about being nice. They might be nice and the wife might be paying all the mortgages. It might happen that the husband, because of his financial situation, might not end up paying for his own share of mortgage, and the wife, because she's working, she pays everything. Right? And then eventually the husband dies. Now, it depends on what their understanding was at that time. If the wife was paying this mortgage because as a gift to the husband, because the husband doesn't have anything, and says, so I'll come in, no more, take my money, use it. Right? So then the husband still owns 50% of the house. The wife is not now owner of the whole house. She cannot say, I was the one who was paying the mortgages all along, so this house is mine. No, she cannot say that. So it depends on what the understanding is. It is very important. People open bank accounts and then, they both of them earn and then money goes in the same account. So there is no understanding of, how it's going to be divided or how much owns what percentage. Right? So there can be complications in that case if it's not very clear.
Complication here, I think wife and husband, so if the husband he passed away, the wife automatically will get 50%.
With the state law, right? Yes, so that's a problem.
So how this will be addressed?
If you write a will, if you say that I want only my wife to get only 1/8, then she will get 50.
So they will respect this?
Yes. That's why it is important to write it. Okay, any questions on the ladies' side?
But it is already, he is 50% understood that he has the 50% and according to state laws, we can only write a bill for 50%.
Yeah, if she goes to court, then she gets 50% unconditionally, right? Yes.
No, not really.
Now, still, even if you get...
If you don't write a will, she can go to Canadian, she can use the invoke Canadian law and get everything in certain cases.
Because you're not owner of the rest of the 50%.
Okay, is that clear? Any no more questions? Should we move forward?
Yeah.
Should we go at the same way or just wrap it up quickly and it's useful, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You did.
Okay. It's much clearer on that side. I don't know why we can't see clearer here. The arrows are much clearer.
Yeah, it's because of the light.
No, it's much.
Oh,
much
okay. That's somebody cutting down the side.
Okay, so maybe.
Yeah, but still.
Maybe I can see. Okay, so let us now bring in, as the brother asked this question, there's another element, that is of debts. So we know now inheritance is going to apply. We can't change that. You can use your will, but then there is also debt now. So you have homes to pay. you have zakats to pay, you have loans to pay, and so on and so forth. So at the time of a person that this is the amount that he leaves, yeah, that's much better. Can you increase the size as well?
No, the size actually cuts off the...
Okay, that's okay, that's okay. So the first stab at this wealth will be the debt, which could be your loans, Hajj payments, Hajj expenses, homes, zakat, and so on and so forth. This is going to be the first thing that will be taken out from the 100%. So if it is possible that all of this, all of your wealth might go in loan payments, and nothing is left for the inheritors, even for funeral. Yes, that will also be the funeral expenses. The wajib funeral expenses will be part of your debt.
When we talk about loans, does it mean private loans or
Whatever you are obliged to pay, yes. जो आपके सिर पे है, जो आपकी गर्दन पर है.
Allah said that like when the person died, all the amounts that's the property of
in this order. First are the people, are the hukukul ibad, like whatever people own. Inheritance is going to be given to those as a gift later on, right? The first thing is that you owe money. So this money that is taken out is not yours to begin with. Your money is going to go to the inheritors automatically. But when you have taken $10,000 as loan, and when you die and $20,000, you only own 10,000 of that. That will be divided as inheritance. Understood? It's clear on the ladies' side as well, right? So the first cut that happens on your wealth is your loans and debts that you have on the wajibat, the monetary wajibat. So if you have not done Hajj in your life, and Hajj was wajib on you, then first we'll take enough amount of wealth, we put it aside, which is sufficient for a person to go and do Hajj on your part.
That one has to be in the will to say, do my Hajj or something. It's not there.
Well, if you have not written, then you lose on that. But if children know that if you have mentioned, even if you don't make a will, if you tell two people that I have Hajj on my shoulders, then that's enough. They can come forward and they can make that happen. Okay, so what if the debt is more than your property? It can happen that you have 120,000 in debt, and the property that you leave is 100,000. So who do the debtors go to then?
The eldest son.
Nobody. Debt is not inherited by children. It's just bad luck for the debtors. Okay. However, the father will be in trouble. The person will be in trouble in the hereafter. It's not written off. The debt will not be written off. Okay, the children will get nothing as well because there is nothing left to divide. But the debtors cannot go and claim that from the sons. So in Pakistan, the concept of inherited debt, हमारा दादा कितने पैसे देने थे, वो बेटा पूरा कर रहा है, वो उसका पोता पूरा कर रहा है, तो that doesn't happen in Islam. Okay, it's gone and he doesn't have enough money, so it's not going to be taken from the sons or the daughters' money. No, they're independent in that context. However, if the sons worry for their father, they can pay the due share of the inheritors to the debtors, so that the father is not trapped or is not in trouble in the hereafter. Because in the hereafter, then it's going to be taken from his good deeds. If you don't pay it in this world, it's not going to be wiped out. There is justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It has to come into action. There is no escaping the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It will come into action. So in the next world, when you will not have any monetary, the currency of this world, it will get translated into the currency of that world. So if you have good deeds, you'll have to pay with your good deeds for the debt of this world. And if you have no good deeds, you'll have to borrow some of his bad deeds. So it's actually good if somebody takes loan from you and then decides not to pay back. So you can always claim that in the hereafter, only if you have written it. If you do not follow Islamic procedure of writing and having wills, and then that's it. Yes.
So if the person doesn't have enough, has just some property left to pay the debt, but it's not enough to pay all the people that he owes debt to. Are there any laws in Islam that give you some like what does Islam say about in what order does the debt needs to be paid?
I have not seen those rules myself, but I would expect that it would be divided in proportion on who owns what percentage. That is how it will happen. So a person owes 200,000 and their person has loaned 100,000, right? And he only left 30,000. So one person gets 20,000 and the other person gets 10,000 based on the proportion of how many loans to this person. Yes.
Deceased can do wasiya for payment of his debt.
I'm sorry?
Deceased person can do wasiya if he is not leaving enough.
He can do a wasiya to his son that I want you to pay my dues, but that is certain wasiya are not binding. I cannot make a wasiya to my son that after I die you have to give all of your earnings to the center, or this much amount. If he accepts it in his lifetime, okay, I will do that, then it is a binding on him. Okay, some people do a nazar that if this happens, I will send my friend to go and do Hajj. I'll ask him to do it, or he's going to fast for 3 days. These kind of wasiyah doesn't apply. If I get a job, my friend will fast for 3 days. This kind of wasiyah is not applicable unless he accepts it to begin with. It's the same with this inheritance. You don't have money, you make wasiyah that my son will pay, has to pay. No, it's not. There is no has right now. If he accepts in your lifetime, he says, yes, I will pay, then it's an obligation. He's made a promise to you. He says, you have to follow that. Yes.
So what if someone has loans and debts to pay, and he has every intention to pay the money guys, and he has enough money to pay them, but he has the intention to eventually.
It's not good. Intention alone to pay the debts is not good as long as the other person doesn't forgive you.
Your intention dies with you.
That's a good answer. The intention dies with you. That's a good one. Who said that? You shouldn't do what? Unless he makes you forgive, unless he forgives his rights off your loan, or you know that somehow it will happen. That's why at least the first step you should write it down. At least. So maybe you know you sometimes you have property that you don't really know, right? Like a car or clothing and stuff like that that might be able to. If they have inherited the property, that's a different story. You said father dies and then he has to, the bank. First of all, the bank can come and take that house, his house, his property, against that loan. The bank can come to an arrangement with the inheritors, and if the inheritors agree, then they are obliged to follow. That's something different. But without that arrangement, if the father left only a limited amount and the bank took that, the bank cannot force the children, unless the children signed that document as a guarantor that if something happens to our dad, we are going to, pay for the loan. If he signed as a guarantor, then there's something else. So it depends on how the contract was made. So I borrow money from you and you say, well, what do I do if you die tomorrow? How are you going to? I say, well, this person, this is my friend, he will make sure that it gets paid. So he signs it. So now you can go after him.
Can we continue, please? Because there are too many questions.
Yeah, too many questions. We don't have enough
No,
time.
well, it's 9. We are here till 10, right? No? 9:30? We won't be finished. Well, the first session is free.
Yes, last question. Some people they do the bankruptcies, but they have the, property. So what is about them?
Well, if both parties are following a certain set of rules and they're okay with that, then it's okay. The person you took loan from is okay with your declaring bankruptcy and so on and so forth, then it's okay. So you'll have to see how the dynamics of bankruptcy and what was the agreement when you take that loan and so on. I'm not really commenting on that. Okay, so we have an hour left to go, even if we rush. Because as we go further, there will be questions. So either we can do part of it today and then do the remaining tomorrow, or just rush through it and finish it. But we won't be able to finish it by 9:30 for sure. That's not possible.
Let's do it.
Maulana is not here.
Let's continue with less questions.
Let's continue.
So let's continue, but then we will have to sit till 10. We won't be able to finish it by 9. Even if we rush, it's going to take till 10. Unless you want to order something for dinner or some pizza.
Pizza is already here, yeah.
Okay, so let's understand inheritance law. So when a person dies, you suddenly find a lot of people attending the funeral services, even those who never showed up when he was alive, they are there. So who gets what? As there was a question that how much do brothers get, what about sisters, and so on and so forth. There's the inheritance structure in Islam. Let's try to understand that first, because now we have understood that we can work with 1/3 of the will. 1/3 of our property, we can play with that using our will. Okay? Now, the remainder is going to be divided by the standard Islamic laws. Now, when a person dies, there are so many relatives that are there. Not everybody is going to inherit. Islam has divided them into 3 levels. Level 1 inheritors, level 2 inheritors, level 3 inheritors. Okay? So as long as there is a level 1 inheritor, level 2 will not inherit. As long as there is a level 2 inheritor, level 3 will not inherit. As long as there is a level 3 inheritor, the next level will not. The next level is not relatives, is someone else. And if that is not, then there's a hierarchy as well. We are not going to go to that right now. The spouse always inherits. The spouse is not part of any level. The spouse is separate. The spouse will always inherit. Okay? So you have this deceased person. So the spouse is always going to inherit. If there is a level 1 inheritor, they will inherit. Who falls in level 1? Father, mother, sons, and daughters. Okay? And if daughters or sons have died, their children. Poti. Okay? But as a sister asked that question, so if you have 2 living sons and 2 dead sons, and their dead sons have children, they are not going to inherit. Because you have 2 living sons yet. Sons are going to block grandchildren from inheriting. Understood? So level 1 is father, mother, sons, and their children, daughters, and their children. And as long as you have sons or daughters, their children, the grandchildren cannot inherit. So this is level 1. Even children out of temporary marriage inherit like children from permanent marriage. Okay, so it's wrong perception that children from temporary marriage should not inherit. If there are no level 1 inheritors, you get to level 2. Grandparents. Dada, Dadi, Nana and Nani. Both. So father and mother. Brothers and their children, sisters and their children. So level 2 will be when level 1 does not exist. So if there is, if you have grandfathers, grandmothers, brothers, sisters, children and mother, who inherits and how much? Mother inherits everything. After taking the spouse's share, obviously, but spouse is always there. Okay, so mother gets all of it, nothing goes to. And if level 2 is not there, then level 3, Mamu, Chacha, Pupi, Khala, and their children. Okay? And they're up and down, go both ways. Understood?
Level 1, if somebody here sees son, the children are not going to get it.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. If, okay, level 1 has no father, no mother, no son, then son has died, no daughters, grandchildren. Then the grandchildren will get it. In level, grandchildren are in level 1. Level 1 has 2 levels. Sons and daughters is level 1A, and their children is level 1B.
And they will get their father's shares, right?
Yes. So if you have one son and one daughter, but the daughter has died, the daughter's children will not get anything because the son is living. It is technical, so you need to consult someone who is well versed in Islamic inheritance laws before you divide it. We generally do it ourselves, and then end up, and there is more complication than what I'm showing you right now. So let's go over it once again. So you have the deceased, the spouse always inherits. Then if there is level 1 inheritors, they will inherit everything. Nothing goes to level 2, nothing goes to level 3. If there is no level 1, level 2 inheritors will come in and they will inherit. If there is no level 2, level 3 inheritors will come in and they will inherit. Is that clear?
And the same applies to stepsons and stepdaughters?
They have to be your sons and your daughters. If they're your spouse's sons and daughters, then they're not related to you.
If there is no level 1, level 2, level 3.
If there is what?
There is no level 1, level 2, level 3, and only spouse is there. Is there any?
No, she still doesn't get all of it.
Oh, she doesn't.
Spouse will not get more than 1/8 or 1/4. So if there are no inheritors, we will get into that. There is a little bit. You can play a little bit with your will. There's something else you can also play with. If there is time, we'll discuss that. Otherwise, it's the same thing shown in a different way. So level 1, this is the deceased. So father, mother, and sons and daughters is level 1, and then their daughters as well. This is level 1, and then who falls in level 2 is their grandfather, your father's fathers and mother, and then your mother's father and mother, and then your brothers and sisters. They fall in level 2. It's clear, right? So for most people, level 1 is what applies to them, for a majority of people. But then once in a while, if there's a childless couple, for example, then level 2 might kick in, or level 3 might kick in. Spousal inheritance. So there are specific rules for father, mother, sons, daughters. There are also special rules for husband and wife. So if the survivor is a husband, so if a female dies and the husband is among the survivors, so he is going to get 1/4 if the deceased has children. And if he does not have children, if she was childless, then the husband gets one. The spouse gets 1/8 if the deceased has children, and she gets twice as much if the deceased was childless. So for a childless couple, for example, out of 1 million assets, she's going to get at most 250. Okay. And if he has more than one wife, the same amount is going to be divided among them. Yes, so if he has 4 wives, this 250 is going to be divided among 4. Not each wife gets 1/8.
250 divided by 4. Wow.
Okay.
इसलिए दीदी दूसरी 100% पसंद नहीं करती.
Level 2.
अब समझ में आया.
Level 2, brothers, sisters, grandparents, मामू, मामी, खाला, उनके बच्चे. बाकी दरवेज for level 2. Okay.
Adopted sons or daughters, they are not.
Adopted sons and daughters cannot inherit. You can always use your will. It is important to know that.
सारा चक्कर खून का ही है. सारा चक्कर खून का. खून चेंज करा दो, बात सही.
Yes, you can do whatever you want with your property in your life. You have $1 million, you give 900,000 to your spouse in your lifetime. Go ahead. You're free to do whatever you want. But there is a risk. She might take that and leave you. You can't take it back. Because you have transferred the property. It's not a paperwork that you do. It's actual transfer of property. So you give all of your money to somebody, you want to give it. You want to give all of your money to the Hussaini, give it. But then it's Hussaini's now.
Can you put a condition there that if you're leaving me, then...
अगर कंडीशन रखने से अच्छा है कि 2 ही ना.
But you don't know your last day.
I mean, you're close to that if you're sick or something, right? So you can do just a few hours before your death or something like that. I'm just, it's like...
If there's a condition, Islam knew that there would be people who would think like that. If a person gives all of his money to, or engages in a trade, or gives all of his money after seeing signs of death, then that doesn't count.
Oh wow!
If he's going, if children have left him and he married again and nobody's looking after him, and he sees that he's going to die, and he doesn't want any of the money to go to his children, and he gives everything to his wife, he's not going to apply. Because you're knowingly depriving someone of it. Religion has already taken care of that. There's one important thing to realize. The wife, according to Ayatollah Sistani, those who follow Ayatollah Sistani, the wife will only inherit from the cash and the residential house, the structure. She does not inherit from land. So if you have $800,000 investment in business property, wife is not going to inherit from you at all. So you're left with only $200 and 1/8 of that is what she gets. That is why we got 37,500 in the example that we showed. This is Ayatollah Sistani. Whereas the husband gets from movable and immovable both properties. So whatever is left, husband will get either 1/2 or 1/4. Whereas the wife is going to get only 1/8 or 1/4 of the movable property, basically cash and liquid cash, and in the structure of the house. So whatever the house structure is worth, and if you have a garden, then the trees and then the fruit of the garden, not the land. Okay, so there are some more details to it, but the thing to remember is that if you are following Ayatollah Sistani, then the lady gets only 1/8 of the movable property, the liquid cash and the structure. So this is what his rulings are. Wife doesn't inherit from land, whether it be residential or agriculture. She inherits from the value of the house, other structures such as trees and so on and so forth. Now, according to Ayatollah Khamenei, the wife inherits from all assets. So this is one major difference between the rulings of both of these Marajah.
supposed to be the follower, the talqi, sorry, if my wife is following Ayatul Sistani.
So she is going to follow her mantra. So if she's following Ayatul Sistani, then she knows that her share is what he says, not what Ayatul Sistani says, but she's following him, and she's going to find out her share in this property based on who she thinks is the most knowledgeable.
But
the understanding of the hadith that they are interpreted in different ways. Yes, there is possibility for those scholars that they interpret hadith in slightly different ways, and that is the reason why we have difference of opinion. So this difference of opinion for moon sighting is because of the way they interpret the hadith. Right? So yes, it can happen, and then this is one reason which has severe consequences. Okay. So is that all for inheritance? No, there's one more step. So let us go back to the case that we are studying. There's a surviving father, surviving mother, son, daughter, grandma, and wife, right? So they're all survivors. So level 1 case for sure. We know the ratio how it's going to be divided. Each inheritor, or let us say these are people who can potentially inherit. Each potential inheritor has to go through an eligibility test. Some of them can get disqualified. Even though father or a son might be living, he will inherit 0 because he failed the eligibility test. This is interesting, right? Okay. जितने potential inheritors हैं, मतलब वारिस कौन है, बेटा, बेटी, माँ, बाप, बीवी, ये सब इनको मिलना है. हर एक फर्द जो है, उसको eligibility test पास, इसको टेस्ट पास करता है. ठीक है? अगर वो टेस्ट पास ना कर पाया, तो उसको 0 मिलेगा. वो ऐसा है जैसे नहीं है, जैसे इस तरह है. Okay? What are those eligibility tests? He has to be a Muslim. उसको legitimate father होना चाहिए. वलद ज़िना का बाप जो है, अगर बच्चा जो है वो शादी से नहीं है, the father will not inherit. So if a couple conceived and then they got married, and then they had this child, and then they had another child, and the father dies.
Doesn't count toward.
So only one child will inherit. Ji? तो the guy's marriage. Yes, हो सकता है. Yeah, after conception, yes, you can marry same person. Yes, it is possible. The Hurmat Abadi stands if the lady was already married to someone else and this person had a relationship with her, he cannot marry her forever now. Hurmat Abadi, that comes whatever. But no, here it is possible. He has to be the legitimate father. He should not be the killer of the child. If he himself killed the child, he cannot inherit. So if you are the killer of the child or the deceased person, if you are the killer of the deceased, anyone who killed the deceased cannot inherit. So if father has a lot of property and he's not dying and the child, now God forbid, wants the property and he goes and kills his father, he cannot inherit. It's gone. Okay? He has not disowned the deceased. Okay, this doesn't normally apply. This is basically no, Akh is not there in Islam. This disownment thing is, let me explain that. Sometimes it can happen that the couple gets married and they have a child, and the father goes to court and he says that this child is not mine. Okay, he refuses to own this child, right? But then he has no evidence. He just says that my wife was not loyal to me. In that case, there is a special procedure that takes place in the courts where they do curses on each other and they invoke the punishment of Allah on the person who is lying. That's a special procedure. Once that takes place, then this person is no longer his son, because he's just owned him. Then he cannot inherit. In most cases, this would not apply. Okay, number 4 would not apply to most in today's world, because most people don't do that. Don't go to court and don't have Islamic court available. And then he should not be a slave. If a person is a slave, slaves cannot own property. Okay? So slaves cannot inherit. So just ignore these last 2. The first 3 are important. Okay, so imagine this now. The father died, the child dies. The child was a convert. Parents are still Christians or whatever religion they follow. And he had that person who died had a son. No spouse. Who inherits? The son inherits everything. The father and mother will not get anything. On the contrary, the person who died is a Muslim. One of his sons turns atheist. He will not inherit anything.
But a Muslim can get inheritance from non-Muslim.
From a non-Muslim, yes. The rule there is actually quite interesting. But just because it doesn't apply to you, if there are people on the lady side where it applies, it's very interesting. A Muslim will inherit from a non-Muslim, but a non-Muslim cannot inherit from a Muslim. This is the father's eligibility. The same goes for a mother's eligibility test. The mother also has to pass the eligibility test, which is basically the same, that she has to be Muslim, she has to be the legitimate mother, and she should not have killed the deceased. Child's eligibility test, he has to be Muslim, he has to be legitimate, and he has not killed the deceased. So sometimes when people use mercy killing and they are themselves killing the parents because they think they are doing them a favor, they are actually denying themselves of the inheritance because they are the killer of the deceased. It is still haram, but one of you have to check the ruling. You have to be the person actually committing the crime. If somebody else is doing it, it doesn't deprive you of inheritance, but it is still haram for you. You will be acted as a killer, but not the killer that is deprived of inheritance. Okay, so we're nearing the end. So let's look at a systematic approach. How is it going to work? So you have the deceased. So you are going to, after taking the debt and after taking the will aside, whatever is remain. If there is wealth that is remaining, then you will identify level 1 inheritors. If there are level 1 inheritors, each of them you run an eligibility test on each of them. If they pass, inheritance laws applies and you get the result. If they fail, if all eligibility test fails, so person dies and he left only one son, and that son is a non-Muslim, and is living in this part of the world, that son is not going to inherit. Whereas according to state law, he inherits everything. Level 2 will kick in.
Maulana Sahib, we already have half the people we had 15 minutes ago.
Left?
Yeah. We only have half people, so half people have already left. Okay. Now we have half the people we had 15 minutes ago. So now I'm not sure whether everybody that is here is going to be here for another, because we still have to do matam on one nauha at the least.
It's up to you. We can stop right now.
Yeah,
but this is important stuff.
Yeah, very important for sure.
This is important.
Yeah, because
we can do a show of hands. We have to just stop here. Tomorrow we will not be able to have this tomorrow.
Tomorrow we cannot do this. We have to do
this. So we can stop here and do the matam.
So we have to do
You can do another 15 minutes. Just conclusion. So
it's 9:30 right now. There are going to be questions. We'll end at 10. At 10 it will be over by 10. It won't go after 10. So at 10 you can do the nauha at 10.
Anybody who is in a hurry, he has to go.
Okay. Let's continue.
The people sitting there.
Okay, yeah. If everybody right here is agreed, then that's okay.
Yeah, so maybe we end sooner. Maybe it ends sooner. But 10 is the upper limit. So please write to salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
there's this hadith of the Holy Prophet. I thought a hadith is an incident. The Holy Prophet walked into the mosque. He saw two groups of people. One group of people was busy in worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, namaz, salat, and reading the Quran. And there was another group of people who were involved in teaching each other. The Holy Prophet looked at both of them and said, this is good, this is good. Then he walked towards that group of people who were involved in teaching each other. And he said, this is the reason why I have been sent to teach you. And he joined that group. So inshallah, there is sawab in matam as well, and this is also important because even the sacrifice of Imam Husain had a purpose behind it, was the implementation of Islamic law. We cannot implement Islamic law if we don't know that. I'm not saying we don't do that. Inshallah, we'll do that at the end, even if it had be for a little amount of time. Inshallah, we'll have the barakah in it. Inshallah. So let's go to the simple inheritance problem once again. Let us assume now that we have a wife, we have a son, and a grandmother. These are the survivors. And your assets is 10,000. So now let us look at how it's going to be divided. If there is no will, because the son is an atheist, he is ineligible. Right? And because he is ineligible, level 2 will kick in. Because there is nothing else. So the wife already gets 1/4 because there are no children. So she doesn't get 1/8, she gets 1/4 because the son is like dead. She gets 1/4, which is 250, and the rest goes to maternal grandmother, which is 3/4. Now this maternal grandmother might be too old, and she might not, you might think that she might not need this money, and you want to leave more to your wife. It is possible, right? Because the maternal grandmother, or maybe the grandmother's other children, or the maternal grandmother, they are there. So you want your wife to get more. Then you can use your will here to change this. Let us see how we can do that. So the will objectives, maximize wife's share. That's what we want to do, right? We have a cash of 100,000, and you also want to leave 50,000 for your son. Even though technically he can inherit, but giving the assumption that an atheist person becomes murtad, he can inherit. Let us go forward with that assumption. Your flexibility is 330,000. That is what you can work with. So one sample will would be that out of this one, that I want my 1/3 to be distributed like this, 50,000 to be given to son, and the remaining to be given to wife. This will is perfectly within your limits. As a result, what happens? Son gets 50,000, whereas he was getting 0. Wife gets 450, where she was getting 250, and the maternal grandmother gets 500. You can even increase the wife's share by first giving her 200,000 as a gift in your lifetime. But then she owns that, and then this will be applied to the remainder, and no, he has as long as he's alive. Okay, let's go back to the problem again. The initial problem. So grandfather, father, mother, son, daughter, and recent wife. You had questioned how are we going to increase her share to that much. These are the assets, and this is if there was no will. This is how it is going to be divided. Grandma gets 0. Father gets 166, mother gets 166, son gets twice as much as the daughter, and the wife, based on Ayatollah Sistani's ruling, gets only 37,500. We want to change this now, and we want to change this as well. We want to change the daughter's share, we want to change the wife's share. So will objectives, maximize daughter's share, increase wife's share from 37,000 to 100,000. You can set your own will objectives, okay? And you also want to leave 30,000 for grandma. This is your assets. So sample instructions, your flexibility again is 330,000. You have to work with this only. You cannot go beyond that. So this is how you will make a will. Out of 333,000, 30,000 goes, I want 30,000 to be given to my grandmother. I want 67,500 to be given to my wife. I want 235, which is the remainder, to be given to my daughter. As a result, what will happen is, because of your will, your assets have decreased to only 666. Baaki to will bhi nikal gaya na? Right? So, as a result of implementing that will that you write, and I'm just skipping all the calculations, this is what you get. You get the will. Grandma gets 30,000, whereas she was getting 0. Father's share decreases from 166 to 111. Same with mother's share. Son's share has decreased from 418 to 270, where the daughter's share has increased from 209 to 391. And wife's share has increased from 37,000 to 100,000. So now you have seen actually how writing, you can use your will to actually work with the will to change the inheritance, to change the net financial amount that goes to the inheritors. Now you should get your answer. Can I reduce the share to 0? Can you reduce someone's share to 0? No. Because of that. Okay.
So, what's happening in Canada, some guys, when we are delivered to those who are implementing it, let's say state. So, now he has to show that according to Islam, according to my religion, just because he has control only of 1/3.
Look, yeah, what he does, when you live in the system, the way you will work is, you will first calculate, okay, if I die right now, what is Islamic division? So you find that out, and then you see, okay, I want to increase that. Then you make your will in such a way that it ends. Now, when you're making your will for the state, right? If you make a will for 1/3 of your property, then the state laws will apply to the rest. Again, you're in a problem, right? So you will make a will now for the entire 100% and allocate in such a way it fulfills both. So you can have your own will that you can do to the mu'mineen, and you say, this is how I want, but for the state I'm preparing this document that they should divide the property based on these instructions. So this is your paperwork for the state, and then you know how you want to divide, and you're sure that you're not dividing, you're not stepping on somebody's rights. Question? We're almost finished now, so inshallah in another maximum 10 minutes, we will have some questions. Go ahead. Okay, so if there are any particular cases that you want answers to, these are the ratios. You had that question, what are the formula, right? So these 3 pages basically are the formulas for different scenarios. So if there's a particular scenario that you want to check, you can look into these 3 pages and you can get your share. For example, this one here says that the wife is present and there's a daughter and a son. So that it will give you the share, how much each wife gets this much and the male member gets this much. So these have the formulas. We're trying to, inshallah, come up with an application where the app does all this for you. So just pray that we get that sooner. We're having trouble with the developer, and it's taking too long to develop. And who cannot inherit this last slide? So who cannot inherit? Those who do not pass the eligibility test. Adopted children, they cannot inherit. You should use your will to रज़ाई दूध वो जो भाई बहन जो दूध की वजह से पैदा करते हैं. Brothers and sisters from our children out of nursing, they can. My understanding is they can inherit. I have to be sure. Animals cannot inherit. And who can inherit children from temporary marriage? Even if you divorce your wife, and the wife is in the RHE, she will inherit. There's a period in which she will take her back into marriage, she will inherit in that. A lot of the time this happens. You have nikah is done. Rukhsati se pehle, before the rukhsati takes place, the husband dies in an accident. Right? Generally, that's the end of the story. Right? The girl stays in her house, she does the iddah, whatever, and over. But you deprived her of her inheritance. Right? There was slaves. Laundry slave hoti thi na? Eligible. One of the conditions of eligibility, you have to be free. You cannot be slave. Thank you very much for attending. Subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the tawfiq to learn these ahkam and practice it, and if you realize that there is inheritance in our, if you are sitting on somebody else's inheritance, prayers in that piece of land is not valid. Your ghusl in that piece of land is not valid. Ghusl mayyat in that piece of land is not valid. All of your ibadah there will depend on that other person allowing you to do that. And any worship that you do, that piece of land belongs to somebody else. Or even if this piece of land, this house belongs to me and my brother, and I'm depriving him of his share, and I'm using the entire house, I cannot pray at any place in this house. I cannot say this house is yours and this is mine, I'm praying my house. No, you cannot pray in any part of the house. Okay, or if you pray, there is bath, it's not valid. If you do Mustamayyat, it's not valid. So none of it is valid. If you do Majlis here, all of the SAWW will go to the brother, and you will suffer only your share will be the pain and suffering for organizing these things. So it is important that we be very, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very careful, very particular regarding the rights of other fellow human beings in our property. Please recite the salawat. The Shia.org has created a template. Yeah. Shia.org. But the point is, you need to. Theirs is also not very. It's not a perfect one. I looked at. There were issues with what they have done. It's a good start, but you need to have a scholar also look over it so that you ensure that the inheritance you have done the inheritance correctly, and then you are clear. Because if your will is ambiguous, then it has new rules kick in. It's a technical, it's a legal document, and just as with any other legal document you refer to lawyers, you need to refer to religious lawyers because this is a legal document. If it's going to result in somebody losing their fair share, yes. Yes, I already have to do Why? But you have added with this. It's just the PowerPoint or the speech. They won't understand anything from the PowerPoint. You can want to, but I wouldn't advise you because they won't understand anything. Because there's so many ways, like you just somebody knew nothing, you just supposed to go over this, not this like the first day. You wouldn't understand what is going on. You don't know. Nobody knows when he's going to die. You can die today.
No, but generally speaking, youth, first of all, what age is it recommended to write the will? And then youth, generally speaking,
as long as you become baligh, your will is applicable. So, if you have property, you should have a will. Unless you know that it will not be divided incorrectly.
I have a question.
Yes.
If a husband dies and they have property and one child is small and so when will the wife distribute the property because the child is small and
The property will be distributed. They will divide the property right then and there. The little baby will not be handed over his share of the property unless till he matures. So it will be somebody will take care of his property. It will be stored in the bank or with a trustworthy person, and it will be spent on him based for educational and for his needs. That is in his interest. And when he matures, then it will be given to him. in that case, they will have to refer to the Hakim and get permission, because one of the child is a boy, and he cannot give permission to sell his property. You're kind of locked in a situation. Yeah, so you will, agar uske maslahat mein hai, if it's in his best interest that this be done, because you know the prices are going to go down. If it is in the best interest of the child, then the Hakim will give permission. But if the property is going to go up, but the other brother wants the money because he wants to do business, then they might not allow you to do that. So yeah, they might be locked in a situation because of this scenario. Unborn children, if the spouse is pregnant, unborn children are also eligible for inheritance if they are born alive. Okay. So, yes. With your will, yes.
Yes, do we need to register that will be created for our own Sharia? So do we have to register somewhere in the Alberta? I don't know.
As long as it is witnessed, you have registered.
Yes, write it in a way that.
So you have to look for what Alberta law says in that. But your will, either for Islamic, it has to be written, signed, or you have to do by people. With the Islamic, you have to, like, even your will, you have to get it checked with a scholar that it's according to the Islamic laws.
As long as it is written on paper with witnesses.
Not for Alberta, for Islamic purposes.
I'm saying that in Alberta as well. So it is what happens. You don't have to register or anything.
If we can, person wants to know, can we have party together?
Ya Hussain, 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 Ya Hussain,